Update. I, 32, female, work overnights, but my father-in-law, 60s male, keeps bad-mouthing me and telling everyone I'm lazy. I'm afraid people are starting to buy it. Original story. I work overnights in a very demanding medical field. My sleep schedule has always been nocturnal, so this feels more natural to me than working days and brings my stress down. My husband is gone 5 days out of the week as a truck driver, and my days off are the same days as home, thanks to my seniority, and we are both night owls during this period. My mother-in-law recently passed away, so my father-in-law sold everything and moved to where we were. It has been included in my family events. At Christmas, my brother pulled me aside to let me know that my father-in-law is telling anyone who will listen that I'm lazy because I sleep all day. I work 12 to 24-hour shifts at my job during the days I'm working. The only reason I get my days off to align with my husband is the seniority I have, and even then I often have to work when he's home. I've now noticed that, along with him calling me, I am starting to miss calls around 2 to 3 p.m. from family members who know I'm home and are asking me to do things for them during the day. I'm usually asleep by noon and have to be up for work around 8 or 9 p.m. I've sat these people down to explain that I am an overnight emergency worker and that I need my sleep. My husband sat my father-in-law down and explained to him what I do, how I need my sleep, and that he's being a jerk. But my father-in-law maintains that a real job doesn't have overnights. I don't want to have to cut contact with him because we are the only family he has left. My husband stands behind me and says if I want to cut him out, even just to let him have a timeout, he's game. I also don't know how to address my whole family about this. My mom combats it as much as possible, but his way of thinking is starting to permeate them too. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I work nights, and I just return calls at 2 and 3 a.m. when it's convenient for me. They catch on. Think it's time for Opie to have a bring your child father-in-law to work day. This is exactly what I was thinking. Have him do some clinicals by your side. Let him see that you are indeed working the hours that he is sleeping. I'm not in the medical field, but I'm pretty sure this would be super weird, if it's even allowed. Doubtful. I know if I'm at a hospital and some doctor/nurse was like, "Do you mind if I bring in my father-in-law?" Oh no, he's not medical personnel. He's just a trash talker. I don't want to prove a point to him. Now please take off your pants. I'd be like, WTF. Start bringing father-in-law in at 2 or 3 in the morning and ask him why he isn't up yet. Tell him he's lazy for sleeping when you're at work. When it tells you you're being ridiculous, respond accordingly. Mom worked nights when I was a kid. Dad called Mom a few times while he was on lunch, waking her up. So she returned the favor and Dad figured it out immediately. Since Mom and Grandpa were both on nights during their careers, a benefit from them training our family. Also, do not disturb is a fantastic thing on smartphones. Only 7 people can ring me during hours I set. They know not to call unless it's important. I use my phone as an alarm clock so I can't just leave it in another room. I'm happy that your husband is on your side. Don't feel bad for your father-in-law when it doesn't feel bad for you. He needs to move out ASAP. Also, it's not your job to do anyone's errands. Ask these people that when the heck are you supposed to sleep if you work from X to Y? I'm petty, so I would call them in the middle of the night. Surely not everyone in your family is dumb. I wouldn't worry about it. I work from home. The amount of errands I got asked to do because you're not busy was insane, until I put a stop to it. I guarantee father-in-law's telling the family she's just being idle. There are people who will see an opportunity. And now for the update. Hey all. I dealt with my family members at a family gathering over the weekend. I saw my sister, one of my family members who had been texting me, and reminded her that I'm asleep at 3 or 4 p.m. when she texts. If she texts me first thing in the morning, like when she leaves for work at 7, maybe I could do whatever favor she needs before I go to sleep. I told her that I wouldn't be adjusting my schedule to do her favors. She seemed to understand. Over the weekend, my husband and I sat down with my father-in-law one last time to try to get him to understand that I'm a medical professional. I work nights and that my nights are as hard as working a day shift, oftentimes harder. I brought up my mother-in-law and reminded him how she called 911 at 2 a.m. when she had her first heart attack. I told him the person on the other end of that phone had a real job. The EMTs who came to take her to the hospital had real jobs, and the ear nurses and doctors that treated her had real jobs. I told him that yes, I could take a day shift, but I would be unhappy in the end because I'm just not wired to be awake during the day. Today is an exception because I'm on vacation and had a dentist appointment. Well, those who guessed that this was way more about my job were right. After the discussion, He point-blank told me that my chosen hours weren't conducive to having children. When I reminded him that when his son and I got married 10 years ago, we both agreed that we weren't having children. He had some choice words. My husband kicked him out of our house and my family will stop inviting him to family gatherings. It's not the outcome I wanted, but hopefully it'll come around. Edit. To be clear, he did not live with us, but near us. My husband kicked him out of our house that evening. Heart attack. Genius. My husband kicked him out of our house and my family will stop inviting him to family gatherings. Good work. And welcome to r/child-free. As soon as I got married, both sides of the family started incessantly badgering us about kids. Are they offering to babysit and take care of our home? Of course not. I'll have kids when I get tired of having freedom and money. One of my daughters doesn't want to have kids. I see the static she gets sometimes and it pisses me off. What is wrong with people? If someone doesn't want kids, they should not have them. Having kids when you don't want them is the worst thing you can do. I agree. A lot of people shouldn't have kids, and yet so many people legitimately think women's sole purpose in life is to reproduce, and that we will not and cannot be happy if we don't. Thanks for the update. I think you and your husband handled it perfectly. Your job. It was always something more than the job. Nighttime medical shift work is the hardest job in the hospital. He sounds like a massive jerk who needs to keep his nose in his own business. Glad your husband stood up for you. Raised in a household where one parent worked days and the other nights. There's always someone home and always someone to pick up the kid. That's exactly why my parents did it. That's how me and my husband do it. I work days and he works evenings/weekends. It's a heck of a lot cheaper than $800+ per month in childcare, and she gets to be with her dad all day. Happy ending to an awful father-in-law. I'm not defending the dude, and he certainly has no right to treat family this way, but it's possible with the loss of his wife, having thoughts of getting old, and having no grandkids from his son has clouded his thought process. Grieving sucks, and can do weird things to your brain. It might be on his mind, but the words that came out of his mouth towards me when we reminded him we weren't having kids were absolutely unacceptable. He called me a lot of different names, including a racial slur. I'm mixed race, and he has never shown any sort of racism before. I hope he's just clouded and genuinely apologizes. I don't believe he's a bad person. Maybe just hurting. Next story is titled, My father-in-law, 47, has a terminal illness, and he propositioned me, 29 female. Myself and my husband have been together for 11 years and married 7. I wish this wasn't true. My father-in-law has been stepdad since he was 8, and my mother-in-law separated 2 years ago because he has been messaging other women, younger ones for context, like mid to late 20s. It was rough for a while, but everything has been okay, and relationships have been repaired. He is a great dad to my husband, and an amazing granddad to our kid and our extended family. His bio family are amazing people, and we've never been treated as anything other than blood. We're all extremely close, and it's a big family. That's what makes this harder. I've never felt creeped out by him, even though I knew this thing for younger women, but he's always been very respectful to me and treated me like a daughter. I and my husband were obviously extremely shocked and disappointed in him, and it took time to work through my husband and his relationship, but he made a huge effort to repair it and prove himself again. He has just had a diagnosis which gives him a few months. I don't want to go into detail for anonymity reasons. I went to see him before my husband got home from work and while my daughter was still in school to check on him. He gave me all the awful details, and we cried, etc. He told me it's sad he won't see his granddaughter grow up, his son grow older, and all his regrets. Then he told me he needed to tell me that he has always been attracted to me, and if I would agree to have one night with him as his dying wish. He said he isn't going to be able to meet anyone he's been hoping to, and hasn't had action since mother-in-law, and it would mean everything to him. I shut down. I know I should have said or done something, but I felt sick to my stomach, excused myself, and ran the heck out of there. I'm now at home wondering how do I handle this, and when/if/how I tell my husband. He's wondering why I'm not reacting to the bad news, and I've just said I'm still in shock. But obviously I feel disgusted by him and don't ever want to see him again. Do I ruin the only dad he's ever known for him and make the already impossible situation even worse? Lose all of our family? I'm so scared and confused. I've never seen him act like this or treat me this way. His relationship with my mother-in-law isn't the best, and his bio dad has never cared about him. He doesn't see his siblings. The family we have are my father-in-law's and my family, who are great. Anyone know how I deal with this crap show? Now for the advice. Tell your husband right now or this will eat you up. Otherwise, as you seem indifferent to dad's dying, it'll make him think you are some kind of cold, heartless person. It could destroy your marriage. To make it even simpler, someone did something awful to you, and your husband's job is to make you feel better. And again, you can't keep the secret forever. And if it comes out after the old bugger is dead, your husband will always wonder what dad's side of the story was. There are so many downsides to keeping quiet. And remember, you aren't ruining anything. He is. Thank you, you're right. Also, dying is not an excuse to do awful things. If anything, this person does not care at all to ruin yours and his own son's marriage, and then punch out. This isn't something you can really carry with you secretly without there being serious complications. You should tell your husband. As for ruining the relationship, no you didn't. Your father-in-law did that when he made a pass at you. I've carried a similar burden for 40 years. Tell him. I could honestly say so much. Do I ruin the only dad he's ever known for him and make the already impossible situation even worse? Your father-in-law managed that all by himself when he propositioned you. Tell your husband. And be prepared to support him throughout the fallout because I imagine it'll be immense. I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this. Exactly. I know how hard this will be on him. And getting the news this morning. It's going to break him. I guess I'm trying to figure out how to tell someone you love something that is going to change their whole perspective on a relationship they have that means everything. Ah, freaking heck. Is this disease anyway affecting his mental faculties? Bearing that, there isn't any excuse and the former is flimsy to begin with. First, your husband needs to know. Sooner rather than later. And you need the support he can give. Your father-in-law is solely responsible for any damage or fallout this may cause. It isn't. I wish that was it. Then at least it's an explanation of some kind. I'm going to tell him and we can grab some time without our daughter. I'm just scared. Thank you. Now for the last story. I am tired of being a married single mother. I am tired of being a single mother instead of a married mother, as my husband currently acts like my fifth child instead of a capable adult. When we met, he was a lovable and kind man. But now it seems as though he thinks I'm his personal maid, and that all child rearing and household burdens are mine. I've tried talking to him, and nothing comes out of it. It's as if a married energy vampire sucks all the life energy out of me. I work full-time, do all the domestic chores, all the child-related chores, and every time I ask him to do something, he purposely messes it up, or just doesn't do it. Our son's birthday was almost 2 weeks ago, and all I asked him was to pick up his birthday cake and candles. He literally was with me the day I ordered it at the bakery, but yet I still texted him the bakery's address and the name the order was under. He went to the wrong bakery. I decided to argue with the staff that they clearly messed up and ruined his kid's birthday. At some point, he decided to call me to complain of the deserved, horrible treatment he got from staff. I explained he was at the wrong store and to hurry up before the bakery closed. My son was standing next to me, and I could see he was genuinely anxious of not at least getting his birthday cake. Since we aren't having a party for him, we aren't having any parties as we are still adhering to strict COVID restrictions. I decided to pick the cake up, since I couldn't trust him to make it on time as it was close to the bakery's closing time, so we could still have a small little party with the rest of the household. But I realized that this isn't the first or 100th time this man has messed things up. I'm always the one the kids turn to. The one who is expected to know where everything is, when it should be done. I'm the one to fix it, or to worry about whatever is wrong. He just gets to smile, laugh with the kids, and I'm left with all the worries. I was so angry that he got to play with kids, while I was stuck running around cleaning, cooking, and making all the plans. He just gets to take credit. I can't seem to get over it, and I don't want to get over it. I feel used, neglected, and over-freaking worked. I feel alone. Every other day he talks about how hard he works, and yet it doesn't even measure up to half of what I do. He wakes up in the morning and only worries about getting himself dressed, whether he should go to the gym or what he's having for breakfast. I wake up to getting the kids showered, clothed, then I get them their breakfast and lunch is packed. The only thing he does regularly is drop the kids off 2, or if I'm lucky, 3 times a week. While I am left with cleaning the house and then getting myself ready, and even checking in on his elderly parents while I drive to work. And when I'm back from work, he's sitting there waiting for me to make dinner, to help the children with their homework, then clean up, do the laundry, and put the kids to bed. I am so freaking tired. Gun to his head, he wouldn't know the names of the kids' teachers, their best friends, their friends' parents, the doctors, dentists, their tutors or babysitters' phone numbers, his parents' doctors, their medicine, or their caregiver's phone number/working hours. He gets to just exist and without worry, without exhaustion, and I'm so tired of complaining. So tired of crying. So tired. I don't know why I wrote all of this. Maybe I wanted to vent into the vastness of the internet. Maybe I wanted advice. Maybe I am just tired of being miserable on my own. Please Google weaponized incompetence if you're not already familiar. This is exactly what your husband is doing. He can definitely do basic chores and remember basic things, but he knows he can act like an idiot and you'll pick up the slack for him. In my experience, people like this hardly change. What is keeping you in this marriage? It's not like he suddenly became a crappy partner. It was slow, gradual, and before I knew it, it was my job to manage and do everything for our family. All bad things, forgetting to remind kids of their activities, not doing XYZ for the kids, not real bad things, are my fault. And all good things are due to our efforts even though it was me who made it happen. He gets to be the relaxed parent while I'm forced to be the one that gives the kids a routine and structure. So of course I'm the bad guy for making the kids go to bed, brush their teeth, etc. I didn't just wake up one day to be in this position. It took a lot of time. I spent the majority of my childhood in foster care, without family and then to be abused by the people who adopted me. I had always hoped and promised myself I would offer my kids everything a child deserved to have. And one of those things is that they are to be part of the two people that created them. To know them, to be loved and cared by them. My reluctance to have a failed marriage since he doesn't physically or financially abuse me. Being mistreated and abandoned as a child can oftentimes leave you with a very low bar. To give my children the family unit I never had. But at this point, I don't even think they'd mind us separating. He loves his children even though he doesn't raise them. And in many ways, I do love him since he was the first man I got to be safe with. But honestly, love is not enough to sustain a marriage, a family, or a household. I'm fairly certain that divorce is on the table, and I believe that I'm at the stage where I'm mentally preparing myself before I act.
Update. My wife went out last night and didn't come home until this morning. Original post. This is horrible. I'm furious right now, but I'm also depressed as heck. I know what I have to do. It's just killing me that I have to do it. It's fresh and it hurts a lot. My wife didn't come home last night. She went out with a couple of girlfriends, which is pretty normal for her. She's normally back around 2 a.m. on these nights, so I waited up. Around 2:30, I called to check in. She answered, and I could hear people in the background. She told me they went to a party but were leaving in a couple of minutes. She wasn't home by 3, so I texted. It delivered, but no reply. Around 4 a.m., I called again. It rang a couple of times before she sent me to voicemail. My wife finally came stumbling through the door at 6:47 a.m. this morning. I know the exact time because I was worried. She was wearing a dress she didn't leave the house in, with mesh leggings I'd never seen before either. The leggings had clearly been torn, and her makeup was smudged. My heart sank when I saw her. My immediate worry was that she had been assaulted. She only shook her head no when I asked her that. I asked her what she had been doing then. She only said that I knew what she had been doing, and that kind of confirmed what the voice in the back of my head had been screaming since she walked in. My wife cheated on me last night. I asked her who it was. She shrugged almost casually and said it was somebody they met at the club. She went back to his house and hooked up with him, then Ubered home. She then said she didn't want to fight and just wanted to sleep, so that's what she did. She's still asleep now and didn't even take a shower before passing out. Suffice to say, our relationship is over. We don't have any kids, and we rent, so it shouldn't be an extremely complicated process. I keep trying to reason myself out of it, pretending there might be something to salvage here. I've always maintained that cheating would be a red line for me, though. I think I need to stick to that now. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. If cheating is your deal breaker, and it's a totally reasonable one, the deal has been broken. When she wakes up, she's going to give you the whole song and dance, that she was drunk, that she loves you, etc., etc. But the truth is, she broke your trust and your heart and your vows. Stick to your guns and leave the woman who doesn't respect you enough to stay faithful. Thank you. I don't know why it helps to hear it from another person, but it really does. I honestly don't know that I want to hear her out right now. It's not like I'm going to believe anything she tells me anyway. Also, drunk or not, it doesn't sound like by the interaction you two had, she cared one iota. She didn't even try to hide the fact she cheated. You keep trying to reason yourself out of it because this just happened and you're still in shock. The feeling of betrayal is still going to be there when the shock fades, so don't let yourself humor her now. Also, just to be 100% safe, I'd recommend an STD screening. This might not be the first time she's done something of this nature. I really don't think she's done this multiple times. If she had, she'd likely have come home and told me right away anyways. She's always been the type of person who can't keep things bottled inside. I will get tested though. It can't hurt, though I am a little scared of needles. You didn't think she'd do it the first time either. It doesn't hurt to be safe than sorry. If she's done it once, you would proceed in the assumption she's done it before, especially given her attitude. Mini update. Alright, things have happened. I am no longer at home. I left. I wasn't able to get the day off work today though, so I'm writing this on my lunch break. It's been a struggle keeping myself together today, honestly. I've had to sneak off to the bathroom twice to cry. Things rough, dude. I'll post something more detailed later on. Because holy freaking crap, there's a lot. I'm exhausted. I've only slept about 4 hours total since this all happened. Does anyone know if I should post the actual update in a new thread, or just update the one I already made? It's gonna be a lot of text, probably longer than the first one by a bit. Also, to the woman who felt compelled to send me a topless picture, thanks, but also no thanks. My heart just isn't in that sort of thing right now. Now for the first full update. Me again, folks. I'm sorry I didn't get around to this sooner. I wasn't able to get the day off work yesterday because my boss kind of sucks. I was a complete mess at work yesterday though, so I was allowed to take the rest of the week as vacation, thankfully. I think I went through all of the stages of grief while my soon-to-be ex was sleeping. I wasn't expecting my post to get any attention at all. I just figured I needed to try to talk to someone about it because I was not in a good headspace. I made the post in the morning, and by noon she was still conked out in the bedroom. I had processed things a bit more, and I had a rough plan in my head that I was starting to set in motion. I made a short list of questions I wanted answers to, gathered up all my important documents, laptop, etc. Then I went into the bedroom and started packing myself a suitcase. I know a lot of folks wanted me to kick her out. I did consider it, but honestly, I'm not overly attached to this place. We just rent, and I'm in a lucky enough situation to be able to say that paying half the rent for a few months isn't going to financially end me. It'll sting a little bit, I won't lie. But I'll make it, and I feel like being around this place is only going to remind me of her anyway. I need to be looking forward, not back. She ended up waking up about halfway through me packing my suitcase. There was momentary confusion as she looked around the room, then she just started bawling. Maybe this is awful of me, but I didn't bother comforting her. I told her I had the screenshots of her Uber and text messages from her phone, and that plus her confirmation was enough that things between us were completely done. She didn't answer me and just cried louder. I debated trying to continue the conversation, but I decided to just pack the rest of my suitcase and head back out to the living room until she came out. When she finally left the bedroom, she sat next to me on the couch and asked me if we could talk things through. I told her as calmly as possible that wasn't how things were going to work. I was going to ask questions. I wanted honest answers. She told me she'd be honest, so I proceeded. My voice was shaking the entire time. It was taking everything to hold it together, but I kept going. Was this the first time she had cheated? She started crying before she answered that, then told me no. She had cheated on me multiple times over the course of our relationship. It was, and I'm going to use her words exactly here. Just sex. A way for me to let off steam. None of it ever meant anything. I wrote a comment shortly after making my post that all the love couldn't just fade away in one swoop. Well, it can. It hit me right then that I wasn't dealing with my wife. The person I was married to literally wasn't in the room. This was someone different. She refused to tell me exactly how many times she had cheated, just more than last night. Had she used protection? No hesitation from her before she nodded her head emphatically. She seemed surprised I'd even ask that. I'm still going to get tested just to be safe. I did some research into timing, and I'm going to look after it. Were her friends also cheating on their spouses? Yes and no. I tried to get her to tell me which of her friends were cheating so I could get in contact with their spouses. She probably should have, because her refusal led to me messaging pretty much every romantic partner of her girlfriends I could find on social media. There are a couple I don't know or couldn't find, but I did my part. Why did she do it? This was the answer that gutted me the most. I'm going to use her exact words again. I need to have sexual variety. I told her that it's not like our sex life is dull, and she clarified, it's not the same as something new. I didn't even have a response to that one. I had expected something about me working too much or not supporting her emotionally. Nope, she just hooked up with other guys because she felt like it and wanted to have some fun. When I didn't respond, she started asking me about counseling and therapy. I reiterated that our relationship was over. I'd be leaving. What she did next disgusted me. My ex actually tried to have sex with me. She put her hands on me and started trying to take off my clothes. I felt like I wanted to vomit and pushed her away after a couple of seconds. She just kept telling me that she would figure out a way to fix it, that we would work through it together. I told her there was no way, and she started bawling again. She went to the bathroom and locked herself inside. I was just sick of everything at that point. I called her mother and told her what was going on. The full story too, the cheating, the questions I had asked, and the fact I was leaving. I've always had a good relationship with my ex's parents. They both decided to drive to town, which is about an hour for them. Once I knew someone was on the way, I just grabbed my things and left. Her waterworks in the bathroom were just annoying me because it felt hollow to me, especially given the answers to my questions. I ended up packing another bag before I left and took all the things I could think of that I felt sentimental attachment to with me. I found a parking lot and sat in my car until I was able to get in contact with a buddy for a place to crash. I tried to take a nap, but I was running on way too much adrenaline. I knew when her parents had made it to the apartment because she started calling me. When I didn't answer those, she started texting me. She had gone from sad and crying to furious. Apparently, I'm a freaking piece of crap for telling her mom everything. Whoops, I'm not sorry. I've received roughly 100 texts from her since leaving. They range from name-calling all the way to begging me to come back, to sending me pictures of the food she ate for some reason. I haven't responded to any of them. I feel like I said my piece before leaving. So that's where I'm at now. We didn't have joint finances, so that part was easy. I canceled all the subscriptions that go to my credit card just to be sure and changed all my important passwords. I'm crashing on a friend's couch for the next bit, but I've got some feelers out to some short-term rental places until I can find something more permanent. I've got feelers out for a divorce attorney too. A coworker of mine had a recommendation, so barring something better, I'll probably go with them. I also wanted to say that I was shocked by how supportive everyone was, and thank you for that. Truly, from the bottom of my heart. It isn't easy for me to talk about emotional things with people close to me. This was an invaluable venting place for me. Thank you all so much. Glad you had the strength to get out of there and not put yourself through more of your ex's BS. I find it funny that she started crying now. Seems like a complete flip from how heartless and cold she was to you when she first came home. Good riddance, and good luck to your future OP. I honestly don't know if she was crying because I was leaving, or just because she was caught and the little universe she had built for herself was crumbling. I'd like to think she cared I was leaving on some level, but her response to the whole thing does make me question. I'm looking into therapy, but as weird as it sounds, I want the anger to fuel me a little longer. The crying was the same reason a child cries when it gets caught with its hand in the cookie jar. The way she responded and acted, and her reasoning behind all of it, tells me she didn't care. She just cared about getting caught, and that this will change her way of living. None of it ever meant anything. That line that so many cheaters use perfectly illustrates how selfish these people are. I read several cheaters posting online using that same excuse. I don't know, maybe there is some truth to it. Maybe in the moment, they aren't thinking about their spouse. It still doesn't change the decisions they make to continually mislead, but maybe it's not an outright lie. To them, it didn't mean anything. And the bit they say not with words but actions is that, neither do you. Final update 4 months later. Hey folks, I'm happy, I guess, to say that this will be the final update to what has been probably the most difficult chapter of my life. I've felt an immense amount of support from the community here from my initial 2 posts, so I wanted to give a short update. Bottom line, my ex and I both signed the final papers for our divorce this week. It feels kind of surreal to think about that still. About 2 weeks into everything, she got resistant. I cut her off entirely, and she refused to return my attorney's calls for a little while. Eventually, things got back on track. As for the infidelity itself, I don't have a ton more details to share with you. We did a short mediation, and by that time, I didn't feel there was any remorse on her end. I've talked about that a lot with my therapist. I'm in therapy, by the way. It still hurts that someone who I thought loved me could have apparently cared about me so little, but I'm working through it. That's really all I've got to share. Thanks again, everybody, for your advice and support. Good for you. I know it's hard, but now you can move on to the next chapter of your life. It feels like a massive weight off my chest, at the same time as I'm absolutely terrified for what comes next. I'm excited, though. Congrats to you. Did you have any communication from her parents at all after the initial call? Also, well done for letting the other partners know. I did talk with her parents a few more times. Nothing too long or in-depth. It seemed they were as surprised as I was, and didn't really know how to handle their relationship with me given what was going on. Did any of the other cheaters your wife was with face any consequences? 2 other relationships ended because of all of this. I spoke briefly with both the other guys, and they had both found out what I had in different ways after I tipped them off to it. Awful situation, but better for all of us in the end, I'm sure. Last story. My soon-to-be ex-wife came out as a lesbian, and I'm not allowed to be angry. I, 31 male, was with my soon-to-be ex-wife, 30 female, for 10 years, married for 6. We met in university, and I moved with her back to her home city after graduation. Just 3 weeks ago, I came home from the gym to find her sitting at the table with a packed suitcase. She tearfully confessed to me that she had been seeing someone for a couple of months, and in doing that, she had realized she was, in fact, a lesbian. She said she was leaving me because she no longer wanted to live a lie. I stood there in complete shock, not even knowing how to react, as she said farewell and walked out the door. It took me a few minutes to process what had just happened, as my life crumbled right before my eyes, and she was gone by the time I was able to try and follow her out the door. I blew up her phone with calls and text messages, just because I felt like the least she could do was talk. Eventually, one of her friends picked up and told me, she can't talk right now. I'll admit in hindsight that there were signs. We'd always had some issues with our sex life, and it was getting worse toward the end. There was emotional distance between us, and we had quite a few rough patches. I'll also admit that I wasn't the perfect husband, but I was never abusive or mean toward her. I did my fair share of the housework, was romantic, and put emotional effort into the relationship. This woman was the love of my life, and I'd be damned if I wouldn't have fought to the bitter end to make our marriage happy. But sadly, none of it mattered in the end. I failed at a marriage that was doomed from the beginning, and it cost me 10 years of my life and most of my 20s. What baffles me the most about this whole situation is, how could she not have known this whole time? I was aware that she was into women. She had dated women before meeting me, and her friends and family are very open-minded. She has a queer cousin. I can't honestly think of any reasonable explanation. I feel like I've been deceived. The worst part is how this is playing out with all our mutual friends, pretty much all of whom were her friends first. The very next day, she made a long-winded post on Instagram describing her coming out story, for which she received an endless stream of likes and comments telling her how she's so brave for living her truth. Most of her friends have outright stopped talking to me and removed me from social media, except a few who have called and stopped by to check in on me. Even then, though, every time I try to vent to them, I'm met with some variation of, "You didn't see how much of a wreck she was," or now, think about how difficult this is for her." Like, what the hell? I'm the injured party here. It wasn't my choice to knowingly enter a marriage with someone I'm incompatible with. I'm a human being with emotions too. Anyway, thanks for listening to my little rant. Now that the initial shock of all this is over, I guess all I can really do is pick up the pieces and figure out my next moves. You are allowed to be angry, regardless if she was figuring out if she was bi or lesbian. She had an affair, she lied, she betrayed you. She could have figured it out without having you on the back burner. She was selfish. Literally this. I'd also like to add, because he asked, that I have outed 2 of my friends to themselves. One is now a bit more gender fluid, and the other spent her college years proving me right. I say all that to say when I told them, they both had the same reaction. "What do you mean I'm gay?" And then I explained, and they sat in silence for a bit, and that's life. But important info, I'd known each of them for nearly half a decade at that point, and that whole time, they were oblivious to where their own heart, eyes, and sometimes hands lingered. Haha. Also, you're allowed to be angry. Anyone who says you can't be has either A, never been cheated on, and or B, never watched the love of their life discover they are not their partner anymore, or had the life they built implode with no hope of piecing it back together. Good for her that she gets to be open, but if it comes at the expense of your joy and relationship, that's a detriment. So you're allowed to mourn that, and scream, and feel the pain. Just promise yourself you'll get up after this chapter closes, time passes, and the absence becomes a little less lonely, a little more welcoming. Taking the discovery of her sexuality completely out of the equation here, she's been cheating on you. That's flat out unacceptable, regardless of if someone is just trying to find themselves. You have every right to be upset by the dissolution of this relationship because you were cheated on. I wouldn't say she led you on in regardless to her sexuality. I didn't fully come into my own sexuality until after my marriage, and so for many, it takes time to figure it out. But you don't figure it out by cheating. That's the biggest issue here, and I'm sorry you're going through this.